Today, I want to share with you my Instagram growth secret. I'm just going to kind of get to the core of what I think will help you grow on Instagram as well. Hey YouTube, and welcome to my corner of the internet. My name's Anita, also known as a retired millennial, here on YouTube and also on Instagram. For some context, I have grown on Instagram quite substantially in the past just like 2 months. This was definitely not overnight. I started my Instagram account in February of 2020, and I actually didn't even muster up the courage to post my first post on feed until August 2020. In August, I got my first 100 followers, and then in October, I got my first 1,000 followers. September of 2021 is when I got my first 10K followers. That doubled to 20,000 in July of this year, 2022. Fast forward to August of this year, I was able to hit 100,000 followers, and then now today is October. I'm at over 170,000 followers. Let's talk about the mindset and the strategy behind this growth, and I'll also give you some tips. So one thing that I think is worth mentioning is the mindset that I had to sort of tap into in order to even start. Like I said, it took me 6 months to post my first post. And I think the mindset that really helped me was something that Gary Vee had mentioned. You know, I'm not diehard Gary Vee, but I think some of the social media tactics that he shares are pretty relevant and kind of, although basic, pretty true. So one of them that I think helped me was having this documentation sort of approach. So, you know, instead of coming onto the platform as like an authority, I decided to come onto the platform as someone who is sharing my journey and my story from the perspective of a student and not so much a teacher. But in the back of my mind, I sort of knew I would want to share what I'm learning along the way. And then when I started teaching, the thing that sort of the mindset that helps me is being one step ahead. So if we think back to college, there's many times where we probably got help from TAs. Now, those TAs didn't have PhDs, they didn't even have a job as a professor at the university, but you still learned from them. You were able to like know what to study for because they already took the class. They know probably study hacks. They know the topic really well. They were one step ahead of you. So that's kind of the framework that I use now that I'm in sort of like teaching mode in my niche. I, kind of take courage from my being one step ahead. I know that where I'm at in the journey is going to be one or several steps away from the average American. So I know I have something to share and something to teach. The first reel that did really well for me was like a 5-second reel. I'll share it right here. And it was really just me sort of ranting about how nobody has taught me about early retirement. I think that sort of led more traffic to a series that I had started. And I started a how to make an extra 10K series. So it was like a 10-part thing. Part 1 has like over 6 million views now. What I wanted to do is focus on my approach to reels, and the approach that I have been taking is series based. It's kind of how my mind works. I'm able to at least like organize, like think of one sort of theme and then make several parts to it. The first thing I'll do is share with you like the time. So I think the time is really important. Nobody is going to want to listen to probably more than 30 seconds. And that's, no offense to like you or the information or anything like this. We just live in an era now where people's attention span is like this big. If you're going to go with a trending audio, I would, keep it to like 5 or 6 seconds. So those are like the only type of reels I make now for like the most part. Maybe there's like 1% of reels that kind of breaks that pattern. So I use like a 5 to 6 part outline. So the first thing that I do is I introduce the series. So I'll say 10 things school didn't teach you about money, part 1. So just do that like very quickly, the series name and then the part that you're on. So I use like a nugget first approach. So the second thing you want to do is introduce the nugget. So like say what you want to say in like a jargon-free way, ideally using the word you in it. An example to this might be like, you don't need to be rich to become a stock market investor. I've said what I needed to say. That's what school didn't teach you. And it's going to be very beneficial to you. So that's like the nugget first approach. I avoid jargon because most people don't might just kind of excuse that as being too formal or something like that. My intention isn't to like look or feel smart or like impose credibility via like my vocabulary. Like in fact, I try to use high frequency words so that it reaches the most amount of people, and I just come across as more accessible. Like I don't want to feel like up here. I want to be like, peer to peer. That's kind of the vibe that I use, and that's a little bit of why I recommend that approach. Depending on the nature of your video and the topic, and the next part is either context / background information or like the actual educational component of it. So something that I might say following our example here during this section is, you can invest with $1 and you can do that today. Next part is an example. So you can give several examples. You can give one example. In this case, I would probably do a little tutorial. So then I would say, let me show you how. And then I would actually show them how to do that, like with screenshots and things like that. The next part is asking a thought-provoking question. So something I might ask is, do you have $1 to invest? That's going to probably lead them to act on the information that they just read, making this information very valuable to them. So the last part is really important for growth, and that's going to be a call to action. So you're going to want to say follow for part 2. And I always depending on what, I guess, platform you're on, if you're on Instagram, if it's a new user, if you kind of point to the bottom where the follow button is, I find that to be useful and like maybe a good guide for them to know how to actually do what you're telling them to do. And there's 3 sort of general tips that I have. One of them is cinematography related. So I would do something like make sure there's some sort of movement in the first nanosecond or half a second. That's going to be important for capturing attention. So if you watch my reels, there's some sort of movement that happens in the very beginning to capture attention. And then the second thing is moving your background every 2-ish seconds. If you watch movies, you'll notice that they do this as well, which is kind of a cool little hack that I learned. So another strategy here that I would use in terms of topic placement, if you have a series, I would dedicate the very first 1 to 3 to maybe the most controversial or engaging topics. So if you've had your platform for a while, you probably have a good sense of which topics bring in engagement. So I would use those as your leader. So you might be tempted to kind of save the best for last, but in this case, you're going to want to put those in the front so that way you can build traction. And if you don't have anything controversial to say, that's totally okay. You can say something novel, or if you have something novel to share, or something trending also, put that at the front of the series. So you want to start off strong with these, I would say. So the last tip here is to leave some information out. I know this might go against what you really want to do. You want to say everything, you want to overcome every objection in your video, but if you want your reel to go viral, the length is going to matter because you're going to want people to start it and finishing it. That signals to the algorithm that this is a video people are interested in, and I'm left in this position where you cannot share everything. So I would share the information and not necessarily the implementation. So if you watch a lot of my reels, you'll kind of notice that I'll maybe share the input and the output, the sort of in between, the how or the implementation. I will sort of just keep out of the conversation. and I'll either address it in the caption or people will naturally ask questions in the comment section. So I'll go ahead and just like pin some of those comments. One of my favorite YouTubers, Ali Abdaal, always talks about this like really simple 3-step framework that he suggests for social media growth. And the first part is get going, the second part is get good, and the last part is get smart. Part of being successful on a platform is being consistent, something I'm definitely not on YouTube. But so if you want to be successful on Instagram, you're going to want to make sure that you are going, that you are on the platform. I would say, start on stories if you're not already. Post a story at least a day. It could be your environment, just kind of post where you are, or it could be resharing somebody else's post and like tagging them. Whatever you have to do, just get going. Don't overthink things. You want to just like start. Done is better than perfect. You know this already. Something else I encourage you to do is actually just go and study my videos. You can follow me on Instagram if you're not already there, and just check out how I use this template across different examples. You'll notice I roughly keep that in mind. And good luck.